What's going on, all you gamers? Today we're back with a little bit more Rumbleverse. What I'm going to be doing is going over all of the skills that you can pick up during the game, which ones you should be looking out for, which ones are the most powerful, and just giving you a bit of tips and advice on what ones you may want to use in what situation. So if you want to get a little bit better and find out the most powerful moves, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back, all you gamers. Today we're going over a little bit more Rumbleverse. This game is actually growing on me quite a bit. It is so enjoyable to play. Completely different to anything I usually play, but this one is just a whole bunch of fun when you play it, smashing people to pieces. But which kind of book should you be looking out for in order to get the best skills? What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you in a little combat ring just over there and let you know what my personal favourites are and why you'll be using them. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to skip all of this top row just over here and just do the ones for the blues that haven't got an epic, and then all of the epics in order to kind of show you the most powerful moves. As always, if this video helps you out, a like would be super appreciated, and if you'd like to become a member of the channel for all the latest and greatest gaming, then why not hit that subscribe and bell icon or follow me over on Twitter. But from there, let's jump in and see what the moves are all about. Obviously, 9 out of 10 times, if you can, you're going to want the most powerful, so if you've got a green and you can upgrade it to a blue, make sure you do it, and pretty much exactly the same, if you can bop it straight onto an epic, you're going to want that variant instead, as these are the most powerful, some of which can't be kind of obtained in every single one, however. So if we have a little look here, this great Azure Drop cannot actually be obtained in this epic variant at the moment, and there's a couple of that. So any that we're missing from here, I will show you the kind of rare versions just to show you what they're all about. So the first one will be the Azure Drop. Right, so with the Azure Drop, I don't particularly enjoy this one. I must admit, it's got a very short spam to it. It does quite nice damage. If you're very good at getting your grabs, you may be well and good. As you can see, if I'm just over here, I'm still missing it. You've got to be very close, and unfortunately it doesn't do enough damage, I think, to warrant it given a skill slot. 325 there, and if I just go in and just do a normal, then I'm going to be doing 234. Obviously it is higher, but there's definitely better skills out there, so if it was me, I'd probably pick something else in order to chuck into one of your slots to use. So next up, and we've got Skyrocket, and this is going to be the epic version. So we're going to pick that up. And this one is probably quite different to any of the other skills, to be perfectly honest. The main reason you're going to use this, I would say, you can keep it on one of your skill slots if you want to use it as an escape. So if we do this right here, you can charge it for as long as you want, and you can make it quite easily up to another area. Say I needed to completely get away from someone who had a super, that would be ideal. But if you didn't want to do that, you could just use it like this and do a slam. So it's absolutely amazing for getting in and getting out of the fray. Say I wanted to do a little one, I could just do that, and then I'm still going to get a nice bit of damage and a big bit of AoE. I didn't think this was very good skill at the start. Now I sometimes put it on my first slot and use my second slot in order for my damage type. That way I've kind of got an out if I need it, and I've got a big old area effect, and of course I'll have a damage one for my secondary if I need to take people out. But this one, don't count it out, it's actually a lot better than it looks for traversing the terrain, getting away, especially if you need to move away from those specials, like I said. Next up, and we've got the Omega Cyclone. This one is just an amazing AoE, it really is. We're gonna run into battle, you can either tap it, absolutely pummel everyone to pieces, or you can hold on to it if you want a charged effect. It does quite a chunky bit of damage, it really does, but the main reason you're going to be using this will be to try and kind of capture numerous enemies. If you're going for single target, there are slightly better moves out there, but if you're going for that several targets, this one has a big old area effect. Now if I move over to here, it's still hitting there. So as you can see, if you were fighting a few people, especially if they're fighting between themselves, you can easily capture 2, 3, maybe even 4 people in this if you're lucky enough, and you can get a considerable amount of damage. If you wanted to just run into the fray, just tap it once, easy as that, and then run straight out, or you could go in and charge it up and walk straight in. Completely your choice, but an absolutely amazing one for capturing multiple targets in a big old area effect. Next up, and we've got Giant Swing. This one won't be to everyone's taste. It's actually quite good, but a lot of people may well just leave this one alone, because again, it is one that you've got to grab them up with, and from there you're going to launch them somewhere else. This one's amazing if you're on top of buildings and such, and you just want to chuck them off for some massive damage. But again, it is a very close range one, meaning that it won't be for everyone, because you will have to time it, you will have to make sure that you can get that grab off, otherwise it's not going to be ideal. Probably not the one I would pick up if I could get a better purple, just because I find the ones that you can leap into them a little bit easier, rather than the ones in the game currently that are doing the throw effects. And again, this one, if you're not on top of something and you're on the floor battling, probably not going to be the most powerful. Next one we're looking at is going to be the Diamond Crusher. This one does very high damage. As you can see here, 411. Nice chunky bit of damage, it really is. One of the kind of high end ones, but it's also one that you've got to make sure you're very close to them again with. If you are good at grabs, like I said with the others, this would probably be the one I would pick in order to get a big old chunky number and to get that slam down with a vicious attack. Jumping over to the easiest launcher to use, and we're going with the Cosmo shot. This one, I must admit, is probably the one I'll pick most times, just for ease of use. So you're just going to run in and see you later. Big bit of damage, nice and easy, you don't have to worry about stuff. You can implement it very, very fast as opposed to the grabs, and as you saw, it does quite a chunky number of damage. For me, I think this is my favourite launcher currently, and it kind of gets you out of the way as well if there's fights around. Definitely one to look out for, and a great one if you're going through that damage route, because it just is so easy to pull off. The next one we're looking at is going to be the Dolphin Dive. This one is actually pretty decent, but if you're bad with your dives, you may well be in trouble, so be careful with this. You're going to do that. If you miss, you're an open target and people will lay waste to you, but if you do manage to get it off, as you can see here, it knocks them for 6. For me, I don't think it's quite as good as the one before. The Cosmo shot doesn't do enough damage, it leaves you a little bit kind of in the lurch, especially if you're like me and you end up doing that loads of times. If your accuracy is really good, it's not bad, but I don't think it's the best. What you'll probably be using this for would be if instead you're going to be using it like this and you're going to be charging it up, because that way you're going to get a big old chunky bit of range on it and it's going to do a little bit more damage. But like I said, this one's a little bit hard to kind of put into play, and I found it very situational. Next up, and we have very possibly my favourite one in the game currently, and that's the Omega Uppercut. This one works in pretty much all situations and is just an absolute beast. If you want to look like Ryu and you want to devastate your enemies, this is the one for you. As you saw there, it does a nice old chunky bit of damage. Not quite as much as some of the grabs like the Ice Cutter, but it is very close, and that's just with its standard, so I'm just going in and tapping it. This one is also a charged effect, so if I wanted to run in and then do a charge effect, you can see there, massive damage, and it's probably one of the best looking skills as well. All in all, very possibly my favourite in the game, just how cool it looks and how much damage it does. This one I'd probably say is one of the best, and you should look out for it. Next we're going over to a rare because we don't have the epic version of this, and that's the super duper kick. With this one, we're going to be bopping in and just doing a big old sideways step. As you saw, the damage is pretty tasty. Not bad whatsoever, 253. I found this actually quite easy to use. Kind of locks on a little bit whenever I was going in, and I managed to get a lot of damage and it knocks them really far. So if you do find it, it may well be worth picking up, especially if you can't manage to get hold of any of those epics. Nice damage, and like I said, you could charge it up as well if you really want to, in order to just lay waste to things. Definitely one to pick up, and one of the best rares probably in the moment. Next up, and we've got the Super Sumo Slap. This one is gonna probably be used mainly just to knock down their stamina bar. If you're all about damage, this isn't going to be the one you're going for because it's a little bit harder to use. As you can see there, it's going to do quite a few 13s at this level and then 100 afterwards. So it's going to be around about, probably about 180, give or take. It's not the highest damage. I'd probably say this is going to be something you're after if you can knock them into a wall like you saw there, or if you want to make it so they can't use as many skills and you're using it as a kind of off slot. So it's on your skill 1 and using your skill 2 for damage. Not going to be the highest damage in the game, but definitely has its place, especially if you're trying to make someone unable to use their skills and just lay waste to them afterwards with yours. Now finally, for the epic versions, we've got Javelin Tackle. This is one of my top favourite skills in the game, and it's just an absolute monster. I've probably had more fun with this than most of the other skills, and this and the uppercut seem to be my favourite currently. Using this one on the top of a bridge, a building, whatever you are when you're on a high place, works ridiculously good. But even if you're down here, it's still nice and pretty easy to use. As you can see there, a massive chunky bit of damage, 429. So pretty much more than all of the others put in play. It does a big old chunky bit of damage, 429 is massive. So if you're after damage, this may well be the one for you, especially if you're putting yourself up higher than what I've got. As well, with this, it's got a further distance. Like I was saying earlier, some of the grapples I didn't like because they're a bit harder to obtain. From this, you run in and you've got a bit more range. So if I stand at the circle here, that off of a roof is just a sight to behold. And especially if you're playing duos, you can tag this up with someone else and then they can come in, either ground and pound them, finish them off with an elbow or anything along those lines. But I'd say watch out for this one, as it's one of the most powerful ones in the game. So going on to our last two, which is going to be the rares just over here, the Atomic Punchline. This is my favourite rare. If I could pick any blue one to put in a slot, I would pick this. And I'd actually pick this above some of the purples over here. It really is that good. Easy to use, does lots of damage, and it's just a great move in general. If there was an epic version of this, it would probably be the most powerful in the game, so I can see why it's not implemented currently. So if I just show you how easy this is to use, look at that damage. Absolutely massive damage. Only a blue. You can use it all the way out there. You can jump into range. This is absolutely fantastic to use in any situation. Also, I find that when you're running away from people, you kind of just turn straight back round and dive straight at them. I'd say for the blues, like I said, this is my favourite. I pick this one up whenever I can compared to all the rest. High damage, very easy to use, has quite a nice air effect, he says, as he misses one, but just jumping in is going to do a nice chunky bit there. And like I said, you can also run away, turn around, dive back in. This one, if I was going to pick any blue, would be the one I pick, as it's probably the best one currently. Finally, we're going to be going up to Bad Breath. Again, with this one, the last two, there's no epics available, so we'll see what this one's all about. We're going to bop into battle. It's very close range, so if I use it here, I'm going to completely miss them. But you're going to bop in, you're going to use it, and then they're going to have that poison effect on them. As far as I can tell, I think it just knocks down a bit of their HP. Obviously, this combat drone probably isn't the best to see it, so like I said, if I'm wrong, I'll chuck exactly what it does in the comments. But if it is for that, then you're going to do that, you're going to knock off a bit of their HP, and it'll be perfect, especially if you've got your super. If you think they've got their high health, then you're going to activate your super after this, and then hopefully completely finish them off. probably not one you're going to be looking for in order to do the most damage. It's a little bit situational, and I'd say very much only 1v1, so I don't think it'll be on many loadouts. But it could be something you put on one slot and then have a higher damage one on your right hand, on your other slot, in order to get the most out of it. Well, you gamers, hopefully that's gave you a bit of insight into what the skills are like, what ones you should be picking up, and hopefully you've enjoyed the video. But as always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, take care. I'll see you on the next day.